Resuming debate, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Heritage, responsible for multiculturalism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is with great pleasure that I rise today in this House to speak on Bill S-218, an act respecting Latin American Heritage Month, which will recognise the contribution of Latin American communities to Canada and establish October of each year as Latin American Heritage Month. As Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Heritage and with responsibility for multiculturalism, I am pleased to inform this House that the government is supporting this bill. And in so doing, let me start by paying tribute to the late Senator Tobias Enverga, the author of this bill, a strong senator, a great Filipino Canadian, and a champion of multiculturalism.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians of Latin American origin have been part of the Canadian mosaic for decades. This bill recognizes the richness of these Latin American communities and their significant contributions to the social, economic, and political fabric of Canada. Given the strong and growing presence of individuals of Latin American ancestry, this bill is a meaningful way to remember and to educate the public about the contribution of Latin American Canadians and to celebrate and promote Latin American culture and traditions with all Canadians.
Formal recognition of Latin American Heritage Month is significant because it aligns with what all of us know, that in Canada our diversity is indeed our strength, that as a country we are strengthened by in many ways by our shared experiences, by the diversity that inspires both Canada and the world, and by the way in which we treat one another. Official recognition, Mr. Speaker, is also consistent with other similar commemorations that reinforce the importance of cultural communities to Canada's identity. As a few examples, and have been already mentioned today, we've previously supported the establishment of February as Black History Month, May as Asian Heritage Month, for example. A new Latin American Heritage Month in October would complement these other celebrations and recognize the contributions of this important group in Canada. Mr. Speaker, in 1971, Pierre Trudeau declared multiculturalism as official policy in this country, a first of its kind anywhere in the world. In 1982, upon repatriation of our Constitution and the enactment of the Charter, Section 27 was enacted, which included references to the preservation and enhancement of the multicultural heritage of Canada and the important role this plays in protecting the rights of every citizen. Recognizing the past and current contributions of Latin Americans who immigrated to Canada and have contributed to this country is in keeping with our country's commitment to an inclusive, multicultural society. Mr. Speaker, let me reinforce the fact that our multicultural heritage is a reflection of our commitment to equality and the fundamental freedoms that are grounded in human rights. In 1988, Mr. Speaker, Canada became the first nation to proclaim a Multiculturalism Act. We're celebrating the 30th anniversary of that legislation this year. This law requires that we promote the multicultural heritage of Canadians. It also requires that we work to ensure that all Canadians are equal in our economic, social, cultural, and political life. But our government has taken this approach one step further, Mr. Speaker. Formal recognition of Latin American Heritage Month directly supports Canada's approach to multiculturalism, an approach that seeks to recognize and promote the cultural and racial diversity of Canada, one that acknowledges the freedom of all members of Canadian society to preserve, enhance, and share their cultural heritage. But in going one step further, Mr. Speaker, we have addressed this issue in Budget 2018. In the most recent budget, we announced nearly $50 million in new funding to support programming that actually empowers communities as well to combat racism and discrimination. $23 million has been dedicated to multiculturalism, $19 million in addition to the Black community, and $6 million to the collection and dissemination of data on racialized persons. These funds will allow us to craft a new national anti-racism approach and give meaning to the official language contained in the Multiculturalism Act. But now let me return to Bill S-218, the Latin American Heritage Month bill before us today. The question that immediately comes to mind is why October, Mr. Speaker? Each year during the month of October, peoples of Hispanic origin around the world pay tribute to their shared culture through celebrations such as Hispanic Day, the Day of the Cultures, the Day of Resistance, and the commemoration of Hispanic Heritage Month in North America. The latter celebrates the presence of Hispanics in North America, starting with the arrival of Christopher Columbus on October 12, 1492. October is also recognized as Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Toronto, the Province of Ontario, and in the United States. Bill S-218 underscores the importance of this community to our entire country and builds awareness at the national level. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say a few words about Latin Americans and who they are exactly. They are my constituents in Parkdale High Park, who hail from all parts of the Americas in which Spanish or Portuguese is the main language. They are the folks in Toronto who run Salsa on St. Clair, the Argentinian community at Folklorama in Winnipeg, or the Peruvian community at Folkfest in Saskatoon. Hispanic is a more narrow term, Mr. Speaker, which is defined as of or connected with Spain or Spanish-speaking countries. Lorsque le sénateur
When the late Senator Tobias Enverga introduced this bill in the Senate and explained that he consulted members of the community and the public and gave consideration to a more inclusive and neutral wording, as a consequence, the bill referred to the geographic linguistic community of Latin America, which adds Lusophone and Francophone communities and the indigenous peoples of the region, as opposed to the more common reference to people of only Hispanic heritage. This bill, S-218, uses a broad definition of Latin America, which refers to a group of nations that includes Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, and Venezuela, as well as Puerto Rico, the French West Indies, and other islands.
Pointed out by Senator Enverga, many, if not all, Latin American countries also have a shared colonial history, stemming from the time when Spain and Portugal were world powers. The first wave of Latin American immigration to Canada occurred between 1970 and 1973, with the arrival of approximately 68,000 immigrants. Today, Canadians of Latin American origin represent one of the largest non-European ethnic groups in Canada. They are constantly a growing population, again, as was referenced earlier in today's debate, that represents more than 544,000 Canadian individuals and counting, Mr. Speaker. The majority of Latin Americans in Canada are Catholics, representing more than 60% of the Latin American community. Latin Americans are a diverse group within a diverse nation, which we now all call home. As a government, we are proud to support Bill S-218, which promotes and upholds our diversity and strengthens our multicultural and our pluralistic society. At root, we firmly believe that we will only succeed as a nation when we move from simply tolerating differences to truly celebrating differences, Mr. Speaker. Bill S-218 is an important step to allowing us to do just that. I urge my fellow parliamentarians to honour the memory of the late Senator Enverga and to support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.